In today's video, I'm going to show you how to crochet this beautiful flower blanket, and I think you're going to absolutely love this pattern. It was so much fun to work up, and you only need to know a couple stitches, and it turns out absolutely beautiful. So if you want to make one of these for yourself or a loved one in your life, just keep watching this video. I used weight 4 yarn in this blanket, and that's what I would recommend for you to use as well. I used 3 different shades of pink for the flowers, a shade of green for the stems, and then a neutral color for the rows in between, but you can customize this however you'd like. You'll also need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, as well as a pair of scissors and a yarn needle. So you'll start this blanket by making a slip knot, and you'll start the blanket using whatever color your rows are in between the flowers. Personally, I think a neutral is best for this because it really makes those flowers pop, but you can use whatever color you want. Put your slip knot on your hook. And as far as your chains go for this project, you can make it as big or as small as you want to make this project, but the chains have to be a multiple of 4. So for my blanket, I did a chain of 160. But for this little swatch right here, I'm just going to do a chain of 16. Once you have your chain done, I would suggest working in the back bumps. So you have these V's, that is the front of your chain, and then you have the back bumps on the back side. Our rows are going to be worked using double crochet stitches. And so what we're going to do is we're going to count to the 4th chain from the hook. So we're counting these little back bumps, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. And we're going to work our first double crochet into that 4th chain from the hook. Then we'll just continue down our chain, working double crochets until we get to the end. All right, we have our last chain right here, so we're going to work our last double crochet. So that will be the end of your first row. Now you're going to chain 3, and you're going to turn your work. Now this is really important to make sure that you don't skip or accidentally work into this first chain below your chain of 3. This chain of 3 counts as the first double crochet of the new row. So you have your 1, 2, 3 chains from the hook. Usually you would work right into this first stitch, but we're going to skip it and let our chain 3 be the first double crochet in our next row. And this is how it will be every single row that you work. You'll let that chain be the first stitch. And it looks kind of wonky at first, but as you work it, it pulls it right out and it looks fine. So then you'll just work double crochets down the row until you get to the end. And then this is another important step as well. Right here, you can see the top of that double crochet, but then this is that chain of 3 that we skipped when we worked into the 4th chain from the hook, and we're going to work into the top of that as well. So we're going to work a double crochet into here, and you might think, oh, okay, my edges are straight and I'm done, but this chain of 3 needs to be worked in. So you have the chain 3 right here. Just slide your hook right in to the top of that 3rd chain. Now you've made it to the end of your 2nd row. So we're going to chain 3 again. Turn our work. Remember to skip this space at the base of our chain 3 and work into that 2nd one. And then work double crochets all the way down your row again. All right, we made it to the end except for this chain 3 space. So 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work right into the top of that chain 3, our last double crochet. So that is how you will start this blanket. Like I said, you can make this as big or as small as you want. This is just a little swatch using 16 chains to begin with. But like I said, for my blanket, I used 160. So now that you know how to start, we will move on to the next round where I'll show you how to make the flowers. So now working on our actual blanket, I have made it to the end of my third row of double crochets in my neutral color, and I have this one last stitch to work. And what I like to do is start the double crochet. I pull through the first 2 loops, and usually you would yarn over, pull through the second 2. But since we are changing colors, I'm going to finish this stitch in my green color. So all you're going to do this is take your green color, just fold a little loop to go on your hook and pull it through your neutrals. And sometimes I pull that little tail of the neutral color just to make sure everything's nice and secure, but I don't really do any tying or anything like that. So we have our green color on our hook and we're ready to start our next row. We're going to chain 3 and turn our work. And this chain of 3 counts as the first double crochet in this first stitch right here. We're going to skip the second stitch, and into the third stitch, we're going to work 1 double crochet, chain 1, and work another double crochet into that same stitch. And that makes our little V's, which work as the stems for our flowers. We're going to skip 2 more chains, and then into that third chain, we're going to do the same thing. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same space. So you don't have to chain or do anything in between the V's. You just skip the next 2 stitches, work into the third stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And that is all you have to do for the row of stems. So I'm going to work down this row and I will meet you when I make it to the end. All right, when you are nearing the end of your row, you're going to skip 2. And it almost looks like you're not going to have enough, but you definitely do. Work your last V right there, and then you have 2 spaces left. You have the top of this double crochet as well as your turning chain. So what we're going to do is mimic what we did at the beginning of this row and work 1 double crochet into the last space. So we're not going to chain or anything, we're just going to skip this stitch, and in the very last stitch, which is the top of that chain 3, if I can get my hook in there, we're going to work a double crochet. But just like we did on the last row, wherever we were about to finish that stitch to end out the row, we're not going to pull through those last 2 loops. We're going to take our scissors, cut a little bit of a tail so that we'll have enough to weave in at the end. And then we're going to pick up whatever our flower color is. I'm at the end of this ball of yarn, so I only have a little bit left. But just doing the exact same thing we did when we picked up the green, I just fold that yarn over itself, put it on my hook, pull it through, and then I have my new yarn color attached and ready to go. Now the only time you don't chain 3 in a row when you're working this pattern is when you're starting your flower row. You're actually going to chain 4. So you want to chain 4 and turn your work. And then we're going to be working right into this V space that we made on our previous row. But to make the flowers, you're going to work some double crochets together. And I'll show you what that looks like. So you put the yarn over your hook, insert just right in that V space, not in any actual stitch or chain, just right in the V space. And then you're going to pull up a loop. You're going to yarn over and pull through 2. And then instead of completing it as you would a normal double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert the hook again, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2. Then do the same thing again, yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. When you have 4 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over, pull through all 4, and then chain 2. Now we're going to do the same thing again. Yarn over, insert into that V space, pull up a loop, pull through 2, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, pull through 2, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, pull through 2. 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 2. And that is how we make our flowers. Just like that. So I will continue this all the way down the row and I'll meet you up at the end. All right, once you make it to your last V, you're gonna work one more flower stitch. Oh. And then at the end of this row, we're gonna chain 1 and work 1 double crochet into the top of our chain 3 from our previous row. And this mimics what we did at the beginning of this row. We chained 4, so that chain of 3 counted as our double crochet, and then that extra chain was what this 1 chain will mimic at the end. So we did 1 chain, and then we're gonna insert into the top of our chain 3 from the previous row and work a double crochet. But just like with every single row where we're changing colors, we're gonna snip our yarn. We're gonna grab our neutral color. I'm gonna work that one more time. Yarn over, pull through 2, and then instead of finishing it out, we'll just put that yarn right over the hook, pull through the last 2 to finish out that row. And now we are back to our solid double crochet rows. We're gonna turn our work. Now this first round is a little bit different because we're working in between these flower stitches. So I'm gonna show you how we do that. So this chain of 3 counts as our first. Then in this chain 1 space, we are going to work 1 double crochet. And if you're looking at this from the top, it can get kind of confusing when you're looking at all the V's. So I just look at it from the side, and in this top stitch that is on the top of our flower stitch, we're gonna work 1 double crochet. And then in our chain 2 space, I just work right underneath that chain 2 space and I work 2 double crochets. So if you can remember 1 double crochet on top of the flower, and 2 in the chain 2 space, then you'll be able to work this row just fine. So 1 in the top and 2 in the chain 2 spaces. What you don't want to get confused with is like looking overhead and thinking, oh, is this the space or is this the space? It's just this stitch right above. I know you see 2 of them, but that's a part of the chain 2 from the previous row. It's this one that is on the left side of your flower that you're working into, and just working 1 double crochet and then 2 in the chain 2 spaces right next to it. So work that all the way to the end of the row and I'll meet you there. Okay, so once you make it to the end, we're gonna work those 2 double crochets in that chain 2. 1 double crochet at the top of our last flower. And this was our chain 4 from that previous row. So we're just gonna work 1 double crochet underneath it as if we're working it into that chain 1. And then at the top of this chain 3, as if it was a double crochet, we're gonna work our last double crochet. So now you have the first row of your 3 rows of your neutral color, and you'll just work this like we did when we started this whole blanket. So we'll chain 3, turn our work, and then just like we've done the whole time, this first chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So working into that second space, we will start working double crochets into each stitch all the way down. So you'll do this for row 2, chain 3, turn your work, work row 3, and then you'll just repeat your stems and your flower rows, and you'll just repeat this pattern until you reach your desired length. You can customize this blanket however you want, whether you want to do all the flowers the same color or whether you want to do just 2 colors or you could do 4 or 5 colors. You can do it however you want to do it. Since I've done 3, I'm going to work this until I reach my desired length, but I will make sure that I end on this light pink color because that's the color I started with. So that way, whether you're looking at the top or the bottom of the blanket, and I do air quotes because those will be interchangeable, you'll see that light pink as the first row, if that makes sense. So say this was the end, I would work my 3 rows of my neutral color in the double crochets, tie it off, and then that would be the end after this light pink row. But you could do whatever you wanted. If you wanted to end on the dark pink or whatever, you could do it however you want to do it, but that's how I will work mine. So I will meet back up with you once I work to the end of my project, and we will discuss what we're going to do about all of these tails that we have to weave in, as well as a border to finish off the blanket. All right, so I made it to the end of my blanket, and now it is time to start talking about a border. And just in case it wasn't clear what I was saying earlier, I wanted this row of flowers to be the same as my first row of flowers when I started the blanket. That way, no matter which way she flips this, there will be no true top or bottom. But if you want to end on row 3, you can totally do that. I also went through and weaved in all of the ends, and there were a ton of ends on this blanket. That's the only downside to this pattern. Other than that, it's really, really fun to work. So I have our tail here of where we finished off this blanket at. And what I want to do now for our first row of our border is I want to do a single crochet stitch all the way around the blanket, just to give us a good base all the way around the blanket. Now, obviously, our tops and bottoms have this beautiful chain, but our sides are not beautiful and even. So this will give us a nice clean border, and then we can embellish our border from there. So what I'm going to do first is stick my hook in right in this corner space where we just ended things. And technically, you don't have to tie off if your border is going to be in the same color. I could have just kept going, but I wanted to weave in my ends, and it was a couple days before I had time to dig into the border, so it was easier for me to just tie this off. So what I'm going to do first is chain 1, and then working into that same spot, work a single crochet, and then another single crochet. So there will be 3 single crochets in each corner. And now I'm just going to work down the side of the blanket. So I'm just inserting my hook into the sides of those double crochets. And as you can see already, that's giving us a nice clean edge. So I'm going to do this all the way around the blanket. Now, obviously, if you've never done a border before, the edges might be a little daunting because it's not true chain spaces, but just work into the sides of each stitch and you will do just fine. When you get to the bottom row as well as the top, you'll just work into each chain all the way across. And I'll meet you back when we've worked single crochets around the entire blanket and we make it back to this corner. All right, so I made it around all 4 sides of my blanket with my single crochet. What I'm going to do now is slip stitch into that first stitch that we made of our border to finish off that round. Now what we're going to do is a cute little shell border. So I'm going to chain 1, and then I want this to be right in this corner, but what we're going to do is chain 1. We're going to skip this first chain, and working into the next chain, we are going to do 5 double crochets into this chain. Just like that. Now we're going to skip this next chain, and into this second one, we are going to work a single crochet. Then we're going to skip this next chain, and into the next one, we're going to work another 5 double crochets. And you can see these cute little shells coming together. We're going to skip this chain and then do a single crochet into the next one. So this pattern is just chain 1 at the beginning, skip a stitch, 5 double crochets, skip a stitch, single crochet, skip a stitch, 5 double crochets, skip a stitch, single crochet, skip a stitch, 5 double crochets. So it works up really quickly and it makes a beautiful border on a crochet blanket. So I'm going to do this all the way around the blanket and I will meet up with you at the end. All right, so I made it around all 4 sides of our blanket and I have one more little shell border stitch to do. And I'm going to do it right here. Work those last 5 double crochets. And then to close this off, I'm just going to go directly into that next stitch and work a slip stitch. I'm going to cut my yarn and pull that through like that. And now I just need to weave my ends in. And that is how you crochet this beautiful flower blanket. I hope that y'all enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll make one of these for yourself. They're so customizable. This would make a beautiful baby blanket. I've had friends use this pattern to make vests and sweaters, so you can really do whatever you want to with this beautiful pattern and make something really special. If y'all want to see more videos like this, leave a comment down below and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any more videos from us. We'll see you on the next one. Bye, y'all.